Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Deal with D and J. I'm your co-host, Jacob Pearl. Alongside me is not DJ, but Hunter Malone, co-host of the Green Dog Podcast and Hammered and Homers. We got a big one for you today. We got NFL free agency frenzy to go over, all right here on the Deal with D and J. Let's dive right into it. As alluded to, the NFL free agency period opened up on Monday with official signings happening on Wednesday. So, let's dive right into it, right? Let's talk about the biggest moves. Let's talk about the biggest names. Let's talk about some of the biggest question marks, right? I think we need to start with the biggest developing story right now, which is Maxx Crosby and the Ravens backing out of the trade with the Raiders due to Maxx Crosby failing his physical. Now, as we all know, the Ravens were going to give up 2 firsts for Maxx Crosby. The Raiders were in agreement with that and attacked free agency as so under the guise that they were not going to have Maxx Crosby anymore. That is kind of shown in their signings, right? They went kind of really big, all in at immediately in the free agency here. What were your to me when I hear this news, I don't know if that's good for the Maxx Crosby market anymore. Right? Like, you can't get a trade done because the physical isn't looking good. And the Ravens is an A-top organization. So how many other teams are going to kind of look at that and go, ooh, do we want to trade for Maxx Crosby? Is Maxx Crosby worth 2 firsts anymore given the health? Hunter, give me your thoughts.
I think now it allows you to get him for cheaper. I mean, I can remember a young Drew Brees failing a physical that cost him a chance to go play for Nick Saban as a Miami Dolphin. Now, that sounds crazy to hear in 2026, that whole sentence right there. But he later then gets a deal with the Saints, where now we know him to be Hall of Famer going in as a Saint. I think what that does, the other teams that were looking into him, like the Patriots, you can now get him cheaper. You can now, I mean, clearly, you kind of set the precedent of, this is as high as it gets. So if you're a team like the Patriots, I'll give you a first and a third, but he's got to somewhat pass his physical. His value gets diminished, or maybe you slide in, I don't know, somebody else. The Ravens so far, you re-sign Tyler Huntley, and then John Simpson is signing. That was your big fish to go get this offseason. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the game. You have one of the best running backs in the game. Now you're about to have one of the best defensive linemen in the game. For Baltimore, I feel like you kind of just took a big gut punch. And interesting to see what Brady and the Raiders do going on from there.
Yeah, I think if I look at it, if I'm trying to trade with the Raiders and knowing that Maxx Crosby has the injury history that he has on top of the failed physical, I'm looking at that going, I don't know if he's worth a first anymore. You want me to give up high capital for a guy that may not pass a physical? I don't know if he's worth that anymore. I think talent-wise and the production says otherwise, but, it's still, the health is a big question mark now. And I think if you're the Raiders, it changes a little bit of your draft strategy a little bit, right? You go from having 2 firsts in this first draft, to now you only have the one guy, right? They're going to draft Mendoza at 1. But instead of you're looking at the back end of the draft, you're looking at number 14 and maybe pairing him up with, a Mekhi Lemon. Maybe pairing him up with a Jordan Tyson, right? Get a big body wide receiver for Mendoza. Or you get a nice big offensive lineman to continue to beef up that offensive line. Right? Maybe you're looking at a Mawagai or a Fano or a Caden Proctor, right? So I think it changes up your strategy of how do you approach your free agent? You went in on the center with Linderbaum, who kind of reset the center market with I believe the reported number is a 3-year, $81 million deal with 60 of it guaranteed from the Ravens. And now you add, it's an embarrassment of riches. You get your guy back, right? You get Maxx Crosby, you get the production aspect on the defense, but you're trying to get the value of Maxx Crosby, which was the 2 firsts. And now you kind of have to pivot to that. You're probably not going to get 2 firsts again for Max Crosby. You said it best. You maybe do a first and a third. Maybe you do a combo of seconds. Like, who knows what that looks like for the Raiders. But, I mean, for the Ravens, absolute gut punch. Right? You missed out on maybe some other key guys on the defensive end side, like Joseph Osai. You know, you had Devin Lloyd at the linebacker position. And that's what it is now. So I think for the Ravens, it's a bigger gut punch than it is for the Raiders not getting the 2 firsts.
No, because the Raiders were active. I mean, they also went and got Jalen Naylor. That's another big wide receiver for 3 years. And on the defensive side, you went ahead and you got your edge rusher pay. And then you got Nakobe Dean, who is a very versatile linebacker that can play at the edges. He can play a corner. I mean, this is a hybrid type guy. You went and got Quay Walker, another linebacker, and then 2 corners. Like, you really went in on your defensive side knowing that you were missing that piece. So getting him back, I think you still have plans to move him.
Yep, and then as well, Geno Smith also traded from the Raiders, since we're talking about them, going to the Jets for a 6th-round pick. The Raiders gave a 7th. The exiled prince returns home to the kingdom. Geno Smith going back to the Jets. The Jets, I think, know that they're not getting a quarterback in this draft class. They're going to wait till next draft class, and so they're just going to get a rental. So I don't hate it, but it tells me the Justin Fields experiment is over. You hope Geno Smith gives you a little bit more upside in the passing game, right? With Garrett Wilson, they're projected to draft Mekhi Lemon with their 2nd first-round pick, right? So, and then you have Mason Taylor. You tagged Breece Hall. The options are there for the Jets offense, but again, Geno isn't Seattle Geno. He wasn't terrible in Vegas, given they didn't have an offensive line, but we all know what it is. It's a 1-year rental gap guy to get to next year's draft class that's supposed to be incredibly stacked with Dante Moore, Arch Manning. You can name it. You can go on forever. So I think the next biggest move for me, Hunter, that I really was like, wow, this is a lot of money for a guy I didn't know demanded that type of market, was Jaelan Phillips, defensive end from the Eagles. Used to be a Dolphin, got traded up to the Eagles. He signed a 4-year, $120 million deal, 80 of it guaranteed. The Panthers are taking a big swing on one of the most very talented edge rusher, but the injuries for that guy continue. I think it's a big move for Carolina. I think they know what they need to address. I think the offensive side of the ball is fine. You have Chuba, you have Tet McMillan, right? There you have some guys at tight end. Your offensive line's looking pretty solid. Bryce Young has continued to develop in a right way. And now you're trying to bolster the defense up with a talented edge rusher like Jaelan Phillips, but attaching $80 million guaranteed to that is a lot of guaranteed money. I think this is a big thing that we're starting to see is there's a lot of guaranteed money getting thrown around from these probably mediocre / less than ideal destinations. Like Vegas had to throw out a bunch of guarantees because nobody wants to go touch the franchise. Carolina has to throw out a bunch of guarantees because of the markets. Like Jacksonville did that, I think, 2 or 3 years ago when they kind of made a big splash with some guys. So that to me is a big move that stands out to me. Hunter, who's a big move that you were maybe surprised by, either by the team he went to or by the contract numbers?
Keep it in the same division. I think the New Orleans Saints going after Travis Etienne kind of shocked me. One, I didn't think that Etienne would really leave the Jags. I always saw him and Trevor Lawrence always being together. Obviously, the 2 of them got drafted out of Clemson together, so we haven't ever seen them in the spotlight not together. So I think it's interesting, not seeing Alvin Kamara be there. Etienne is going to be interesting, and I'm interested to see what more New Orleans does, especially, do we believe in the quarterback project? Is the kid out of Louisville, is that our guy? Is it Spencer Rattler? It's still a little messy over there. And the one that I was, I think, most upset about is, I wish I could flip this camera around. Above me is a signed creamsicle Mike Evans jersey. I mean, 1K Mike. Leaving Tampa is not something I ever thought I would see. And ever since then, all I've seen is fire the coach over and over and over again. The 3rd and 23 or 3rd and 24 is all the comments say.
Yeah, I think touching upon ETN, I definitely think it's a surprising move in two ways. One, I do agree with you. I didn't see him leaving Jacksonville, especially after the year he had. I didn't see that move being something that he would entertain, but I guess maybe Jacksonville was like, Tootin's going to be our guy moving forward just because of the running back market. Like, and Gladstone's a smart guy. Like, he's not going to overspend if he doesn't need to. Especially in a market like Jacksonville. And they signed Jacoby Myers to a longer term deal as well, so that may have something to do with the cap numbers and why they let not only ETN go, but Devin Lloyd go as well. Pretty impactful linebacker for them. But I thought New Orleans was going to go get Jeremiah Love, right? You have Kamara aging, right? You can get the cheap running back in Jeremiah Love. You have the succession plan right there with Tyler Shuck, who I think has done enough to be the starter for at least another season or two. You have Olave. You have the wide receivers. They added a secondary wide receiver, I believe, as well. I can't remember who they added, but they added another guy with Olave. And I just think it's a surprising move for ETN given what he did this past year in Jacksonville. And the Mike Evans thing, it's a legend. It's a guy that you never wanted to see leave Tampa, but Tampa kind of gave him the writing on the wall when they drafted Egbuka, right? It was either him or Chris Godwin. We all thought it wasn't going to be
Godwin. Like,
yeah, but Godwin
was done. Like, as soon as he got carted off, he's like, back in the lab. And dude's his age, don't come back from the league. So that's kind of my thought. Also, you had McMillan that wasn't really producing at the level that you wanted. So that could be also a way to kind of peel him off. I never thought it would be Mike.
Yeah, I never thought it would be Mike leaving. I am surprised he's going to San Francisco. And I think San Francisco is an interesting team because they also let Kendrick Bourne walk, which it wasn't like a big move, but like they're going to not. Ayuk's done. He's too busy playing GTA with his Lamborghini and whatever he's doing. So, like, your wide receiver core is currently Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, and Mike Evans. I think you give Brock Purdy a really big, deep vertical threat, and especially a touchdown threat. And you add in Kittle and Tongas with McCaffrey. Like, the offense will be just fine with that move as long as Evans can stay healthy. I think I want to touch upon the quarterbacks here now. We're kind of trying to not fly through this, but basically Miami did a swap. Miami shockingly ate $99 million in dead cap money to release Tua Tagovailoa. Tua signs a one-year deal to go to Atlanta, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me if I'm the Falcons organization, right? If I'm Tua, damn, I have a job. Great. But if I'm Atlanta, what are we doing? Right? I want to talk about Atlanta because, like, I was talking with, the Spinner Christmas Army Knife, Drew McDonald, and I was like, what is your franchise doing? Right? You signed Kirk Cousins to this 4-year, $100+ million deal, right? After 2 years, it basically was like all the money, all the guarantees are done. It's dead cap money at that point. Nothing significant from what I read on the cap space. So and then you drafted Michael Penix in the top 10. And the thought process was, okay, we're taking a gamble on Kirk with the Achilles. We need to have a succession plan for, one, if Kirk doesn't work out, and two, quarterback of the future in Michael Penix. Not a bad logic.
You had Desmond Ritter sitting right there that you spent a pretty solid draft pick on. Like, it was like a third or fourth pick on.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me he didn't develop at all?
No, he's in Arizona now, too. He left.
Well, yeah, they got rid of him once they drafted Penix. Like, it was like the next year Ritter was gone. And it's like, why draft him then if you just couldn't develop him?
But then you let Kirk walk now, right? Let him go somewhere else. He's probably either going back to Minnesota or he's going somewhere else for like a 1 or 2 year deal. Would love him back in Minnesota. Just give McCarthy a veteran presence because Kirk will teach him. But the thing is, Kirk's good enough to not lose the job if he doesn't get hurt. So, like, McCarthy can learn. I think bringing in Tua just tells your fans that we don't know who our guy is. You drafted a quarterback at 9. That should signal to your fan base he's going to be your starter for at least 4 years, right? Because that's what the rookie contract is until the team option. At least 3 to 4, minimum 3. Contract goes to 4, you get the team option at 5. And then from there, you now release Cousins. Instead of just bringing in some other backup, you bring in Tua. And now you're just going to create this quarterback controversy all offseason on Tua going on a 1-year prove-it deal. What are you doing if you're Atlanta, right? Your window is kind of, I don't want to say your window is now, but the NFC South is very weak, right? Very weak division. Anyone can win it any year, given what we kind of just saw this past year. And you have Drake London in his prime. You have Bijan in his prime. You have Kyle Pitts on a franchise tag. And then you're just going to give them question marks at quarterback? I don't know what you're doing if you're the Atlanta Falcons, because you're just telling your fan base, yeah, we kind of messed up on the Penix and we're trying to like maybe see if Tua can be our guy long term. And we don't have to sign Penix into the team option. Is that a fair assessment?
I think Atlanta's a poverty franchise, and poverty franchises are going to do what poverty franchises do best, and that's make stupid decisions. My favorite comment when I saw that was in a week Tua was going to be really upset about this. Like between him and
quite upset.
Yeah, between the two of them, they have one good Achilles, like 3 brain cells. Like, decision making has always been questionable, and when you have all of the skill positions there, why not go get a Geno Smith? Get somebody that's proven to be effective under good scheme. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'd be pissed if I was a Falcons fan. I'd probably look forward to Georgia football instead. Like, I would never turn on Sundays unless it was somebody else. Like, I would just. I would hate it. I would punt this season, and it sucks because, like, on the defensive side, they're so talented. You have James Pierce over there.
You had a great rookie season by James Pierce, by the way.
Yeah, AJ Terrell, dog. Like, I mean, your team is
Jesse Bates.
Yeah, like it just doesn't make any sense to get like. Yes, Michael Penix is still your starter. Because
I don't know, man.
But I have just as much, like, I kind of rate them as the same. Like, we didn't get better. If Penix gets hurt, then Tua goes out there. And then when Tua gets hurt, because that's inevitable, he put out Easton Stick. What are we doing? Like,
dang, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. North Dakota State prospect.
Yeah, go get, like, Stetson Bennett. Like, that's what Atlanta fans wanted. Like, if you would have gotten Stetson Bennett instead of Tua, you would have saved yourself so much money. And your fan base would have been thrilled.
Yeah, I think if you're the Falcons, it's just the epitome of what last season was. Confusing as shit. What, like, are we good? Are we bad? And then you do a move that doesn't signal that you're going the right way, but maybe it doesn't signal you're going the wrong way, but it doesn't mean that it's a good signal. Like, it's just like if you're a fan base, you're quite frustrated. On the flip side here, let's talk about Miami. You want to talk about poverty franchises doing poverty things. I find it interesting with the new GM and the new head coach. You decide, okay, Tua's not going to be our guy. You decide to eat $100 million in cap. Like, wow, for the next 2 years minimum. And you sign Malik Willis. But not only do you sign Malik Willis, who only has 6 career starts, by the way. Granted, 3 of them were with the Packers, and he did phenomenal, right? But that's the Packers with a great offensive line. They have Josh Jacobs in the run game, and they have a lot of really good wide receivers. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, right? Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, you name it. And now you're taking a risk on a career backup guy, giving him $45 million guaranteed. You know what this move screams like, Hunter? Screams Nick Foles and Jacksonville type of screaming.
Oops.
It's not going to end up good if you're a Dolphins fan. Or if you're a Dolphins fan, you're like, okay, I don't mind cutting Tua, and we're going to ride with Quinn Ewers. Psych, you're going to re-sign another guy. Hope you're going to make him your starter, and then not only are you giving this career backup a starting job, you're giving him 45 guaranteed on 6 career starts. I like Malik Willis. I think he's going to do good because he has to run for his life and he has great legs. But like who's he throwing to? Malik Washington and Jalen Waddle? Waddle's made of glass. The defense isn't there. The offensive line isn't there. You have Achane, but like the whole offense takes a hit now. And it already took a hit last year. Now you have no Tyreek Hill. You can't blow it off over the top. Are you gonna like, and I get that the new offensive coordinator, like, and Malik Willis were close, but that can't, like, it's the same thing with the Falcons. You can't expect this to be your solution. This isn't the answer, I don't think. And granted, I know the NFL's hard in the salary cap, but like the Jags figured it out with coaching, right? They stuck to their guns, right? And for the most part, it was a team that they already had that got better. And the Dolphins are kind of starting from scratch here. And I just don't see this being your long-term answer at quarterback. Do you see this being a long-term answer for the Dolphins?
I mean, when I go and get a coordinator, you typically want to get a quarterback that's very familiar with his system so he can integrate it a lot smoother. So with Malik Willis already being familiar with the offense, I have a lot more faith in them being productive than I would Quinn Ewers taking over it, or even Tua Tagovailoa. I think this is smarter by the Dolphins than it is for the Falcons to go and get Tua, because that's a backup. You got a guy like Quinn Ewers, who I'm not a fan of in the slightest bit. I don't think he's a good quarterback. But the alternative is either Quinn Ewers or Zach Wilson now. I'm good with Malik Willis. Like, I'm comfortable with that. The issue is it's based off a play action pass. If Achane's hurt, then you have Ollie Gordon, who we saw at Oklahoma State be very productive when he was able to run the ball, but when you stack 8, like most running backs don't get anywhere, then you have an aging Alexander Madison to go with a Jalen Wright. I mean, the running back room is solid. So when Achane goes down, because he does every year, the running back room will still be productive enough that I think they can still run the play action pass and run that offense, I mean, pretty successfully. Jalen Waddle, I think, is going to be his number one safety valve. Malik Washington, I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and either got some more help, or if you see a big production increase by Theo Weiss. I mean, that's a body that I love to see, especially coming out of Missouri. That was the guy that found his way to get open. You put him in a new offense that runs it for play action. It's very similar to what Mizzou like to do. He knows what to do in that system. He knows how to read, zone progressions, sync. And that's something that, with the new quarterback, all of the wide receivers have a chance to build chemistry with him. Whoever's going to build it the fastest will typically get that 3rd or 4th spot. So I think the Dolphins look better this year than they would last year. And I say that with a straight face with them losing Tyreek. I just don't think Tyreek was made for the offense. I also don't think that Tua was really made for the NFL.
Yeah, I think I've been saying it for a while. Like, Tua was never the right guy. He bursted on the scene, but he was never that good. It's just the hype train couldn't slow down, and then you just believe that he has these intangibles, which just simply aren't there. I think both teams are are lost, but I think if you had to take a guess, like, who could figure it out, I think Atlanta's in a slightly better position to figure it out than Miami is, but it's not by much. Not by much. Let's talk about some big trades here that happened before free agency came alive. Obviously, we touched upon Max Crosby not happening anymore. DJ Moore going to the Bills for a 2nd-round pick. Very shocking that DJ Moore commanded a 2nd-round pick, given some other guys barely command a 4th. So I think it's a good get for both sides. The Bears clearly don't need, nor do they want to include DJ Moore in their offense. They're leaning heavy into Luther Burden. They're leaning heavy into Roma Dunze. And if you got Luther Burden in Dynasty Fantasy Football, to the moon is that stock. And for DJ Moore to the Bills, I think it's a good move for the Bills. You get a true wide receiver 1. He'll fit the offense. He'll fit Josh Allen's deep ball and kind of creativeness that kind of is very similar to Caleb Williams. But I'm just shocked by the price of that deal. Another big one, Trent McDuffie goes over to the Rams. Very surprising in that regard, because I didn't think the Chiefs were going to move off Trent McDuffie. The Rams get Trent McDuffie via trade and then sign him to a long-term deal. So the Rams just continuing to bolster the defensive side of the ball. And then another surprising trade was Michael Pittman going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 3 years, $59 million extension. The Colts choose to keep Alec Pierce. Pittman then gets to go over and join the likes of DK Metcalf. Out of those three, which one do you like fit-wise for those guys?
Honestly, kind of like the way that Buffalo has now set up their wide receiver room. Obviously, they came out and challenged Keon Coleman out in public, which is never a great idea. But if you're going to challenge him, bring in a dude that's going to beat him out. So by them going out and you have DJ Moore now, Joshua Palmer, Shakira is going to be out there. You went and you still have Brandon Cooks who can, I mean, sneak like very quietly get you 1,000 yards. You went out and got a big body of Gabe Davis, who is still familiar with the team and the way they like to do things. But if you're Keon Coleman, like now you're gonna be a backup now. Do you have what it takes to go and man DJ Moore? I feel like that's what it is, and it's gonna be a cool kind of wide receiver battle to see, or even if Keon could beat out a Joshua Palmer for his spot with him being a bigger body. I think DJ Moore will come in and set a precedence, and I think that's the one I'm most excited about. As it comes to obviously LA going and get McDuffie, they also went out and got Jalen Watson. You went out and got Pearl. So the secondary's gotten better. Trent McDuffie's now going to be that shutdown corner that you're looking for, especially out west. There's a lot of good wide receivers out there. Obviously, Mike Evans just got here in the west. You have the reigning champs with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. I mean, you need corners if you're going to see that cat twice a year. I just need them. So I like what they did. It's an amazing fit for the Rams. And I think preseason, I'm going to be excited to see Buffalo again. Like just seeing that wide receiver room go at it. And who's going to take over? Like we're going to see who's going to be man amongst men.
Yeah. Touch upon Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce signed a 4-year, $116 million deal. Averages out to about 29 a year. One, didn't know Alec Pierce could demand that type of money. I think that's my biggest takeaway is I didn't think he could demand that type of money. Like I know wide receiver is a high market, but the guy, his rookie year, he didn't do much, right? And I mean, he kind of stepped up bigger with Daniel Jones, but prior to that, he didn't really do much. I mean, last season he had
Well, his rookie
1,000
year was
yards.
solid.
This past season, he had 1,000 yards. He had 47 receptions and 6 touchdowns. The year prior, he had 824 yards with 7 touchdowns. In his first 2 years, had 514 and 593. Those aren't numbers that demand $30 million a year. You know? Like Michael Pittman is signing a 3-year, $59 million extension. That's more in the lines of 20. And Michael Pittman has a little bit more production in this system. I think the money is surprising to me. I like the move, right? You keep him. He was your best wide receiver by far. And you keep the deep vertical threat that he can provide, which he wins a ton of deep balls. He is right on average with touchdowns. His yards per reception is still a league high 21.3. I think the money is the biggest surprising factor for me because I don't think Alec Pierce is the man side top of money. But I guess if it's, and he also took less money too. Like I think the Niners and the Patriots threw out deals north of 30 to try and get Alec Pierce to come to their team, and he turned those down. So I don't know. This is why I guess I'm not a GM, but maybe I'm smarter than the average bear, Hunter. What do you think?
I'm a big fan of Alec Pierce. I thought he was more productive than Micah Pittman was, especially last year. And I felt like ever since his or not his freshman year, but his first year as a rookie, he kind of forced himself into the starting lineup. This is a guy that's seen how many quarterbacks now? Daniel Jones. He had to deal
Anthony
with old man
Richardson.
Philip Rivers. I mean, he's had probably 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. And he went 500, 500, 800, 1,000. I'm figuring out the league. I'm creating separation. I mean, Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman walked so Alec Pierce could run. And this man is running for 4 years and 114 million with 60 guaranteed. I mean, 60 fully guaranteed 84 million guaranteed. I'm a big fan of Alec Pierce. I like his game. I can't say enough. You touched on the deep ball aspect. How many times have we seen Pittman drop those? You need to, go up and catch with some contact. Pierce comes down with most of them. Micah Pittman does not. There's a reason why Alec Pierce is demanding much more than a Micah Pittman, because Alec Pierce, if you throw that ball up, either he's catching it or no one is. And that's, if you got a guy throwing a duck, sometimes the best wide receiver is that DB. That's still like the move a lot.
I didn't realize this. According to CBS Sports, despite entering free agency, Alec Pierce is staying in Indianapolis after he and the Colts agree on a 4-year deal as confirmed by CBS insider Jonathan Jones. The deal, which is reportedly $116 million over 4 years, also includes $60 million fully guaranteed. It makes Pierce the highest paid free agent wide receiver in NFL history. His average annual salary ties him with Terry McLaurin for 9th most in terms of salary.
And Hunter Renfrow is punching a pillow right now. He is. That's another shifty cat that walks so Alec Pierce could run.
The average AAV, you're looking at Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ayuk, Alec Pierce, and Terry McLaurin. Not only does Alec Pierce surprise the market, but if you're Jackson Smith-Njigba, you're licking your chops, because what's he going to demand when he gets into the market? And if you're George Pickens, the number goes up even higher now, right? Because I think Pickens might have been at that Alec Pierce number, but now I think George Pickens can get up into that DK money, up in that CeeDee Lamb money, if he gets out of the franchise tag after next season.
I would much rather have Alec Pierce in my wide receiver room than him or Ayuk.
The George Pickens?
Yes. I think you cost yourself a significant amount of money when you have character issues.
No.
When you're a locker room cancer, you're worthless to me.
I don't think he was, though. I think Pittsburgh just wasn't the right fit for him. I think Tomlin wasn't it. You're going to tell me that, like, his numbers are better. He's had the same 4 years as Alec Pierce. And he has way better numbers. And you would prefer Alec Pierce or George Pickens?
Yep.
I'm not watching the NFL, buddy. George Pickens, 93 catches this past season, 1,429 yards, and 9 receiving touchdowns.
So the offensive line. I mean, you're talking about Dak Prescott, who was an MVP caliber player, throwing to the George Pickens when CeeDee Lamb's demanding all the attention.
But then Daniel Jones was playing at an MVP level before he got hurt.
And he had 3 years? He had 3 years of Dak, and then he goes, he's had a year of Dak, and then before you had Pittsburgh, you had good quarterbacks. I mean, it's not Daniel Jones is buns.
Kenny Pickett?
Until last year?
You're going to tell me Kenny Pickett? Russell Wilson? Mason Rudolph?
Rudolph, I would not.
You're going to say those 3 guys are better than Daniel Jones?
At the time, yes. Right now, no. Daniel Jones today is better.
Conversation for another day. Let's keep rolling here. You're not going to make me mad. I'm not doing this with you. Talk to me. Romeo Doubs goes to the Patriots. Obviously, you cut Stephon Diggs. You add Romeo Doubs.
Had to.
4 years, $70 million deal. Talk to me about how you felt about the move and the price point of the move.
I mean, don't love it. We've been hearing, I feel like I've been edged by A.J. Brown for like 3 years now, and I'm just ready for it to be done. Stephon Diggs, can't really keep him with the off-the-field issues and allegations, so that was an easy get rid of. Any contract will be probably fully voided once it comes into it. The Romeo Doubs is a solid deal. I mean, 4 years, $70 million. He's not quite Alec Pierce good, but we'll take it. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the signing, but there's still more to come.
Yeah, I agree here. I think it's a move you had to make because the wide receiver market, free agent wise, simply isn't there. Right? Alec Pierce was the number 1 guy. You cut Diggs because you had to because of the off the field stuff. But Romeo Doubs, he was really, really productive in Green Bay. There's just a lot of mouths to feed. So I'm excited to see if Romeo Doubs can kind of maybe, I don't want to say become wide receiver 1 in that offense, but it'd be really fascinating if it's him or Kayshon Boutte who kind of like overtake that 1 spot there. But it's not a terrible move, but it's not exactly the one that I was like thinking you guys were going to make. That's probably, obviously, Laramie Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil but he goes to the Washington Commanders. The Commanders get a franchise left tackle that can help protect Jaden Daniels. He gets 2 years, $60.2 million guaranteed. So a lot of money for Laramie Tunsil. And the last there's been some other edge rushers. Adofe Owe, 4 years, $100 million deal, 68 of it guaranteed. Big cornerstone edge rusher for the defense. Boy Mayfa goes from Seattle to Cincinnati, 3 year, $60 million deal. Trying to answer for probably not going to get Trey Hendrickson back. Hendrickson's still on the market, so I'm fascinated to see where he goes. The Cowboys give Rashawn Gary, and they gave up a 4th-round pick. Dumbest thing on earth. But with the Max Crosby news, maybe Dallas gets back in on the Crosby market. Only time will see. Let's talk about probably the biggest domino to fall in the running back realm. Kenneth Walker from Seattle Super Bowl MVP goes to Kansas City on a 3-year, $45 million deal. The Chiefs let Pacheco walk, and they bring in Kenneth Walker to maybe be a kind of a workhorse back. Talk to me about what you saw in that move and what you liked about it or disliked about it.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City works best off of play action, and they've really worked away from it to have more of a gadget running back. And the last time they've had a true every down back to try to get that build was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he just wasn't the talent you needed. So they've been able to finesse with it. They've had success with Kareem Hunt, who was a bigger gadget guy. But I think when you get Kenneth Walker, seeing what he did, I mean, he is a fucking beast. He is more than enough to kind of be your everyday 3-down back kind of guy. He also can catch passes out of the backfield and can go there and block. So in max protection, when he's got to sit there, he can protect Patrick Mahomes. That's not necessarily something that Pacheco was extremely good at doing. You still have Kareem Hunt and Dameon Pierce, some bigger back guys, in case Walker gets hurt. But I love this move. The Chiefs, obviously an aging team. They're getting older with Kelsey. Hollywood Brown's been in the league for a while. You do have some young core guys, but Patrick Mahomes off of another injury. I worry about him and his health. I think by doing this, you take the load off of him, and he doesn't have to do everything. He doesn't have to be Superman like he's been known to do. You can just hand it off a couple of times, about 20, 30 times a game, and know we're going to get 80 to 120 yards. Sometimes even more than that.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker, this was by far his most productive season / his first season. He was fully healthy. He played all 17 games, had over 1,000 yards rushing, had only 5 touchdowns, but that was because Seattle used Charbonnet primarily as the goal line back. If he had Walker in fantasy football, it drove you freaking nuts that Charbonnet would have 15 points and it would be a touchdown and 40 yards and 4 catches. It was annoying. But
it's
the playoff
one in 2015, you knew he was going to get you 30 yards and a touchdown.
The playoffs is where he made his money. He had 313 yards in the playoffs. He had 4 touchdowns. Absolute did everything back. The minute Charbonnet went down, he stepped up big time, proving that he can handle the workload and be a workhorse back. And I think for people being like, well, Charbonnet was more efficient, all that, you weren't watching Seattle Seahawk football. Kenneth Walker was always the better back, but the minute they got inside the 10-yard line, they put in Charbonnet. And Charbonnet was also the 3rd down back, so that also was a big reason of why Seattle was successful, and that was why that was their biggest question mark going into the playoffs, was how do they look losing their tandem that's been rocking and rolling all season. But that being said, I completely agree with you. They work best off of play action. Pacheco hasn't been the efficient runner that he was his first 2 years. Kareem Hunt wasn't getting the job done either. You have the window. We talk about windows, right? We talked about windows and the Hammered and Homers, right? New episode out. Listen to that as well. But selfish plug. But Mahomes' approach, sponsored by Florida Avenue Brewing. I think if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you probably have 1 or 2 more years of Kelsey max. I think he's done after this year, honestly.
I thought he was done after last year. Like
I think he's running it back one more time. Obviously, Mahomes is getting older. And here's the thing, people touting Mahomes as the next Brady, they forget, like, Brady had to reinvent himself. Like, he went through a long stretches of not being able to get back to the Super Bowl and all these different things, and the team had to reinvent itself after the core that they initially had. So you have Kelsey, you have Rashee Rice. As long as he, you don't put him behind the wheel, he's going to be okay, kind of. You have Hollywood Brown, you have Xavier Worthy, who is a pure gadget guy. Now you add in Kenneth Walker on top of a defense that always finds a way to be better than it probably should be at times, but they're losing those key pieces we mentioned. McDuffie, you mentioned Watson, I believe you said. Leo Chanel just left as well. Kansas City's in an interesting spot. Winning is hard. It's very hard to be good for a long term, especially in this cap era. I love the move for Kansas City. For those being like, who's going to stop them? I think you would be surprised. I don't think this puts Kansas City as the favorite. I don't put them that high because I still like the Rams way better than I like most teams given what they're doing on the defensive side, and they returned Stafford. But, I mean, it puts them back into contention to win the AFC. So, it's a good move. It's a great move for Kansas City. They knew what they had to go address. I will say, I am shocked they chose Kenneth Walker over the cheaper option of Jeremiah Love, but I don't know. So now the question is, where does Jeremiah Love fall in the draft? And I hope he falls to my Minnesota Vikings, but I think Minnesota's too far back at 18. Last bit of question here, Hunter. Obviously, we talked about Detroit. Anzalone left. He went to Tampa Bay. Isaiah Pacheco went to Detroit. Detroit's kind of in this interesting window of, like, it's hard to maintain the core that you have. That goes for a lot of teams. So I guess final question we're going to end on here. There's still one big fish in the quarterback market. His name is Kyler Murray. Where do you see Kyler Murray playing football in 2026?
That's the thing, is like, I really want him to play baseball. Like, I want him to just be like, I made all this guaranteed money. I'm tired of getting hit in the face by 300-pound men. Let's go join the Athletics, because, no offense, like, the Athletics are good now. The young core that's coming up, like, they still own the rights to him. Go play baseball. Go do what Tim Tebow tried to do. Go be good. Like, he's a top tier talent in saying. Now, granted, picking up a bat, swinging, getting your body into that shape, and then picking up 99 is not like a real thing. Like, where would Kyler Murray go? It'd be funny if he just went to, like, Oakland.
Like, the team that doesn't exist?
Or not, but like the Raiders. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Let's just go ahead and, like, we'll be there. Like, I think he would be a really good backup somewhere. Like how Tyrod Taylor was. Like, I feel like that would be cool.
I've seen a lot of stuff to Minnesota. I don't see Minnesota signing him. He's not Kevin O'Connell's typical quarterback mold. I would rather honestly have Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins at least gives me 1 year. He's a guy that knows the system, right? Like, and the plan has to be JJ McCarthy has to work in the next 2 years. You spent the capital, like, this has to be the move. So bringing in a guy like Kirk helps. The problem is Minnesota does not have a freaking GM right now. We're not going to figure out a GM until after the draft process, which I think is dumb. But it's an interesting move. To be honest, I don't know a lot of teams that, like, truly need a quarterback. I think the Jets was an interesting, like, question mark, right?
That's kind of what I was looking at, too. I'm like, the Jets make sense. We made the Tebow comparison, so, like,
I think it, like,
adds up.
Does Cleveland get frisky and boot Shador and go with that option, right? Does Pittsburgh pick up Kyler Murray because they don't know what's happening with Aaron Rodgers? Like, outside of maybe those two teams in the AFC North, everybody's got a quarterback. Like, the Cardinals are either rocking with Gardner Minshew or Jacoby Brissett for another year.
Probably Brissett.
Yeah, probably.
He'll win that.
But you look around the league, there's not a lot of open. there's not a lot of open spots in the league right now. Like, everybody in the NFC East has a quarterback. Everyone in the NFC North kind of has a quarterback. If you look at Minnesota, they kind of have a quarterback, but they all have a guy. You have Goff, Williams, Love, and McCarthy. The NFC South, you have everyone. Chuck, Young, the two lefty dummies in Atlanta, and Baker Mayfield. And then obviously in the NFC West, Arizona decided to move on, and the Rams and Niners and Seahawks all have their guys. Vegas is going to go draft a quarterback, so they're not going to go sign one. New York just traded for Geno Smith, and they still have Justin Fields on the roster. The only team that really screams that he can go start for is Pittsburgh or Cleveland. And if it's not that, he could be a backup in Baltimore and be like Lamar 2.0 if Lamar gets hurt.
That's what I was also thinking about. I don't think he'll be a starter anywhere. I think it's very clear he'll be a backup somewhere. And I was kind of looking that route, but also I was like, wouldn't it be kind of funny if they just went in, like he went to the Colts and he is what they were hoping Anthony Richardson would be? And like, what if Kyler just teaches Anthony Richardson to just do football and not like rap?
Yeah, but you
Or
have
just-
Daniel Jones on a transition tag right now.
That's true, but at the same time, like, he's been productive, once in his career? Twice? In
I think
his
it's-
how long career? Like,
I think
he
the
finally
Colts-
just figured out.
I think the Colts stick with Daniel Jones. That's why I really didn't consider Kyler. I think if I had to predict the team, I'm going to say Pittsburgh. I don't think Aaron Rodgers returns. You currently have Mason Rudolph. You can bring in Kyler on a 2-3 year deal. Still leaves you room if you want to draft Ty Simpson to maybe be your starting quarterback. But it's like, I don't think Ty Simpson is a starter either. Would you rather have Ty Simpson or Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I mean, Kyler. I think if I'm going to guess, I think he's going to be a backup for the Texans.
Ooh, interesting. Bring him back down to Texas.
Yeah, I think he comes back home to Texas, and I think him being home, obviously a salary cut. You get rid of Davis Mills, and then you have Graham Mertz, the third string. I don't think that's terrible. I don't hate that. I kind of see him as a Texan. Like, I can see him in the uniform, and I'm like, that doesn't look bad.
Just watch him go to like Jacksonville or some shit like that. Just some poverty.
Yeah, or he goes and backs up Baker Mayfield like he did in college.
Yeah.
He could be a Buccaneer.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of all the big notes that we've touched upon in the NFL. A lot of movement, a lot of dominoes falling. I just read a report the Cowboys are not entering the sweepstakes again for Max Crosby, so they're out of that
You kind of
race.
figured, I mean, they didn't pay Micah. What's the point in paying Max?
Well, they went and got freaking Rashawn Gary, but that was like a dump. Like, Rashawn Gary was going to be a free agent. They gave up a fourth for it. But with that being said, thank you again to Hunter Malone jumping in last second for a sick DJ. Hunter, the co-host of the Green Dog podcast, and Hammered and Homers, give those a listen. GDP is currently on a little break until we get closer to college football season, but Hammered and Homers fully hammered, fully homered at this moment in time. So, with that being said, thank you for listening to The Deal with D&J. Like, comment, share, subscribe on all platforms. Catch you on the next one.